Hi everyone! So today it is my turn to share my 25 bookish facts about me. We recently filmed Karina's version of this, which you would have seen on our channel recently, and I'll link to that video down below. So without further ado, let's just get into my 25 bookish facts. Alright, so my first fact is I have been collecting books for my entire life. Like literally since before I can remember starting. I've always had a big bookshelf in my room, and now I have probably over 1,200 books. I love listening to audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks pretty much every single day. That said, I do like to have the physical copy of the audiobook that I'm reading so I can follow along. In the summer, I love to read outside in the park. To me, there is nothing better than finding a shady spot under a tree, having a nice coffee, and reading. I own 6 different editions of the first Harry Potter book, including this version in Japanese, which I actually read most of when I lived in Japan. It took me a long time because I kind of had to translate, but this is really interesting. I also own a copy that's in Cambodian that I bought when I was visiting the country. Speaking of Harry Potter, I volunteered at the midnight release party for the 5th Harry Potter book when I was in grade 10, and my job was to be the sorting hat. I love using my local library, and I usually go at least once a week. I will often read books from the library first, and then if I love them, I will buy them elsewhere later. I also love that through the library you can listen to audiobooks for free, download ebooks, which I don't read, but I just love that there's so many services available from a public library. Now, I love being involved in the YA community, but something that I miss is being able to walk into a thrift store and just pick up something on a whim that kind of catches my eye. These days I feel like I get so many awesome recommendations that I feel obligated to read these books that I already know about. Sometimes I will go into a bookstore and pick up something at random, and it just seems so satisfying to fall in love with a book you've never heard of before. Related to that, in school and kind of in my job now, I really don't like assigned reading. Going through school, I had a really hard time getting through assigned reading books. There was a couple times I probably fudged it, and even now, if I have to read a manuscript for work, I just really slog through it. I'm definitely a mood reader, so I love to pick up books that I'm in the mood for, and when somebody tells me to read something, part of my brain goes, no. So my reading tastes over the years have changed quite a lot. In my early 20s, there was a few years where I pretty much primarily read only nonfiction, and very specifically only nonfiction books about running and health. My favorite bookstore in the entire world is Russell Books in Victoria, BC. This bookstore is just so charming. It is 3 levels of new and used books, and every time I go there, I just find something that I fall in love with. The staff is great. I've been visiting the bookstore for years, and I never fail to find something I love. I started reading classics in high school, and I have read quite a few, but in grade 12 I read Jane Eyre, and for a very long time that has been my favorite classic. That said, last year I read Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, and that's also in the run for the money. I have a tattoo from East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I got the tattoo as soon as I turned 18 years old. It's not very good, but it says Timshel, which means thou mayest. There are 3 authors where I have read more than 20 of their books. One is Brandon Sanderson, obviously, Rick Riordan, and Jim Butcher, and all of these people write fantasy. I really don't mind having quite a large TBR pile. I think I have around 80 books in my TBR, but I do try to keep it on one bookshelf, and I'll insert a picture of it here. Sometimes it kind of involves playing a little bit of Tetris with my books. Now, I've been very open about the fact that I read quite a few books a month, and every month I create a stack of all the books I read in order of size so I can take a picture at the end of the month. Now, I have a very cuddly giant cat named Steven. When I am reading at home on the couch, without fail, he will try to sit on my book. Reading with Steven is not the easiest thing, but he is pretty cute, so I forgive him. Now, I feel like this next fact is kind of changing as I get older, but when I was a kid, books very rarely made me cry. There was only one book that made me cry up until in my 20s, and that was Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls, which is about 2 dogs, and I'm not going to get into it. But as I get older, I do find myself tearing up more at books, but it is quite rare still. Now, I've always been obsessed with Harry Potter, obviously, and I was actually a beta tester for the Pottermore website. So this meant I got early access to all of the Pottermore features. I don't use Pottermore anymore, but I felt super special at the time. When I was in high school, I was super into creative writing, and I actually had a poem published in a real book called Voices Visible. Now, working for OwlCrate, I've been lucky enough to be able to attend several really cool bookish events, but my favorite is still YALLFest. I've been 3 years in a row now, and I just absolutely love the atmosphere. I really don't enjoy breaking the spines of the books I own. I really don't mind if other people do it, but for me, I really try to avoid it, so sometimes when I'm reading like a 1,000-page mass market paperback fantasy book, I really have to be very careful. Speaking of giant fantasy books, I only read the first 4 Game of Thrones books because I wanted to read them before I watched the TV show. So I read those books, enjoyed them, and then never ended up watching the show. Last year on our channel, I filmed a bookshelf tour, so a lot of you have probably heard this fact already, but I set up my personal books like a library, so every month I have to rearrange my entire shelves to put in the new books I've read. If you haven't seen my bookshelf tour video, I'll link it down below so you can check it out. I have never been a part of a book club in real life. I've tried to start several of my own over the years and it just never pans out. It is something that I would really like to do at some point in my life, but it's just never worked so far. So my final fact is I don't typically DNF books. I will read a book to the end even if it's a 1-star read. They're very, very rarely I'll put down a book I'm not enjoying, and it's typically non-fiction that I'll do this with. Alright, so that was 25 bookish facts about me. I know I didn't really have a big reveal at the end like Karina did, but this was really fun for me to film, and I cannot wait for Sally and Crystal to film their videos too, so look out for those soon on our channel. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. Happy reading, and thanks for being awesome. Bye!